Since young Master Yin can't eat anymore, I'll have old Lu come in and clear these things away. Stop, Jiang Yinyan barked. The thought of escaping was cut short. She turned her head, forcing a smile as best she could. I'm just going to get someone. Did I say you could leave? Jiang Yinyan's brow furrowed in displeasure. Seeing this, Yinyan didn't dare try to leave so easily. He was clearly starting to frown. With a deep sigh, she walked back. Push the table aside. Sit, Jiang Yinyan issued another command. Seeing his foul expression, Yinyan decided it was best to be sure to Jinjie. She went over, gently pushed the small table to the side, and then sat on the edge of the bed. She kept a certain distance from him. This also gave her a good view of the awkward situation between Jiang Yinyan's legs. Tea hadn't subsided yet. Yinyan was scared, but she also genuinely wanted to laugh. But if she actually laughed, she would definitely be the one to suffer, so she desperately held it in. Jiang Yinyan's eyes were sharp. He couldn't have missed the change in her expression. He said, "You want to laugh, don't you? Come here. Put out this fire for me." His voice was deep and magnetic with a slight rasp, but it wasn't as stern as before. Hearing that he didn't intend to force her, Yinyan cleverly suppressed her laughter and composed herself. Jiang Yinyan shifted to lean back further, but the position was still uncomfortable. He looked at Yinyan, his meaning clear. Yinyan didn't dare approach him rashly, so she played dumb. He saw right through her. With a helpless sigh, he said, "I won't touch you." Hearing this, Yinyan pursed her lips. If you want her wound to heal faster, you should restrain yourself a little. It was a rare instance of her talking back to him, and it came with great risk. Surprisingly, Jiang Yinyan wasn't angry. He just gave a heavy mm. Yinyan moved forward a little, sitting closer to him. She had a feeling he had something to say. Sure enough, Jiang Yinyan got straight to the point. Neither Si Tingyuan nor Si Tinji is to be trifled with. Especially Si Tinji, he's a classic smiling tiger, the insidious type. If you align yourself with Si Tingyuan, and he fails to win you over, he'll resort to dirty tricks. Yinyan looked at him in astonishment. Also, Jiang Yinyan was saying, but when he saw her expression, he couldn't help but feel a mix of amusement and exasperation. What do you want to say? My situation? Yinyan hesitated, speaking cautiously. How did you know, young Master Yin? Wasn't he unconscious? Old Lu couldn't possibly be spying on her for him. Jiang Yinyan's expression darkened. Why do you think I threw you into Fengyao? Don't you have any idea? A jolt went through Yinyan. But that's not right either. Later, she stopped abruptly, her heart suddenly pounding in her chest. For Jiang Yinyan to state the previous points so clearly, he must know what she had been up to recently. It couldn't just be from their last meeting at the banquet. But Jiang Yinyan's next reaction told Yinyan she was overthinking things, and that the more one says, the more one is likely to slip up. She heard Jiang Yinyan ask coolly, "So what you're saying is, you've seen Si Tingyuan again?" Yinyan felt her head spin. A great fear, as if it had claws, grew from within her very flesh. It was as if she were instantly back in Fengyao. The smell, the women's screams, and the men's wanton laughter all solidified into knives, coming at her all at once. She began to panic. Where would it be this time? Yinyan instinctively looked at Jiang Yinyan, but she didn't see the explosive anger she expected. He was just displeased, even frowning, but compared to his previous cold and gloomy demeanor, this was reassuring. The sudden wave of fear gradually receded like the tide, though she was still nervous, unable to guess what his mood would be in the next moment. After a thought, she decided to tell the truth. I just wanted to facilitate the continued partnership between our two families. After all, we have a foundation of cooperation. Jiang Yinyan's brow remained furrowed. Yinyan studied his reaction and said carefully, "I'm part of the Yu family. I can't just ignore the family's affairs, can I? No matter what, I must secure the partnership with the Si family." Jiang Yinyan glanced at her. He wasn't seething with rage, nor did his brow relax. He just snorted coldly through his nose and said nothing more. Yinyan thought for a moment, then asked him, "Then how did you know about these things, young Master Yin?" Jiang Yinyan shot her a look, and Yinyan's heart stuttered again. After a long moment, he said gravely, "I know you, more or less." This sentence almost made Yinyan cough up blood. She couldn't help but say, "If you know me and you know what I was doing, why did you still send me to a place like that? Wasn't it punishment for seeing Si Tingyuan?" Jiang Yinyan looked at her, his face darkening again. Yinyan decided it was best to shut up. Jiang Yinyan said nothing, just fell silent. The atmosphere became quite unbearable. Yinyan felt that whenever she was alone with Jiang Yinyan, she became extremely tense, as if walking on a tightrope, fraught with anxiety. After a long while, he finally spoke, though he didn't sound angry. "Si Tingyuan asked to meet you." Yinyan couldn't read his mind, so she simply replied with an honest "mm." Jiang Yinyan thought for a moment. When he looked at her again, his eyes were as calm as the surface of the sea. Because of the Yu family's team? Yunyan was secretly surprised, but on second thought, it was normal for him to guess. She nodded. She thought that although Jiang Yinyan didn't like to show his face in the business world, his business acumen was formidable. What better time to ask for advice than now? At this thought, she scooted forward again. Jiang Yinyan noticed her movement, and the corner of his mouth lifted imperceptibly. He didn't speak, just watched her quietly. Yunyan said, "But the issue with the team has been resolved." After she spoke, she stared at Jiang Yinyan's face, trying to gauge the change in his expression. But in reality, she didn't need to guess Jiang Yinyan's next reaction. He sneered quite obviously. "You think renewing the contract at the last minute is something you can hide from Si Tingyuan?" Struck by his sharp and accurate remark, Yunyan felt a bit embarrassed. She composed herself and said, "Whether it was last minute or not, the contract is renewed. The team's partnership with the Yu family is real." Jiang Yinyan chuckled lightly and shook his head. Seeing this, Yunyan was confused. She asked, "What do you mean?" Jiang Yinyan leaned back against the headboard. "Let me ask you. After you met Si Tingyuan for the first time, why didn't Si Tingyi contact you immediately? He didn't even contact you Wanzhou, did he? It's not like you couldn't have predicted Si Tingyi would make a move, yet the one who approached you was Si Tingyuan." Yunyan was silent. Yes, both she and Yu Wanzhou had been pondering that question. Si Tingyi would absolutely not give up on a lucrative business like jewelry. She pursed her lips and looked at Jiang Yinyan. "I sincerely asked for young Master Yan's guidance." But her heart was pounding. Would he take advantage of her predicament again? Yet this question was truly tormenting her. She didn't know why, but it was like a natural-born premonition. She felt that if she couldn't figure this out, it would become a huge hidden danger. Jiang Yinyan stared at her, a smile hidden in his eyes. Seeing this, Yunyan's scalp tightened. She quickly said, "Young Master Yin, you're still injured. You can't do anything." Jiang Yinyan raised an eyebrow, his tone meaningful. "Young Master Yin?" Yunyan's breath caught. She corrected herself. "You?" Jiang Yinyan seemed satisfied, his tone turning lazy again. "Being injured doesn't stop me from doing what I want." Hearing this, Yunyan's scalp went numb, and her fingers clenched into fists. Jiang Yinyan took in her reaction, his gaze gradually deepening. "Are you that afraid of me?" She lowered her eyes. "Yes, I'm afraid of you. Don't you hate me?" "I hate you too," Yunyan said, looking up at him, enunciating each word. Seeing her answer so readily, Jiang Yinyan wasn't angry, but smiled instead. He asked her, "Are you willing to ask for advice from someone you detest?" Yunyan's emotions were very stable. "It's nothing. One must be flexible." This answer unexpectedly amused Jiang Yinyan. When his brow and eyes relaxed, he was truly as magnificent as a clear sky after a storm, a sight to behold. After a moment, Jiang Yinyan said, "Actually, with your intelligence, you could have figured this out yourself." Yinyan was puzzled. Her? Figured out? But Jiang Yinyan's expression was quite serious, not like he was teasing her. "How about this, I'll ask you." Jiang Yinyan thought for a moment, then began to guide her. "Do you think Si Tingyuan also believes that Si Tingyi won't just sit and wait for his doom?" "Of course," Yunyan replied without a second thought. The entire social circle of Shanghai had witnessed the overt and covert struggles between those two brothers. Since Si Tingyuan could guess Si Tingyi's thoughts, why did he contact you again before Si Tingyi did? Why didn't he wait for Si Tingyi to make a move before acting? Yunyan thought for a moment and was suddenly struck by a possibility. Because the Si family can't wait. As she said this, her breath caught, and she looked at Jiang Yinyan. Jiang Yinyan was also looking at her, a hint of a smile in his eyes. "Figure it out?" Yunyan nodded slightly, but inside, her heart was in turmoil. She had thought of a deeper possibility, and she believed that what Jiang Yinyan was guiding her toward were these deeper possibilities. It wasn't a possibility, since she had thought of the Si family situation, especially Si Tingyuan's intentions. Then the possibility she could think of now was, in fact, reality. Yunyan's thoughts were a mess for a moment. She frowned deeply, her expression turning grim. Seeing this, Jiang Yinyan couldn't help but raise his hand, his long fingers smoothing the space between her brows. He himself was taken aback for a second, then lowered his hand after a moment. Yunyan was too immersed in her own vexation to notice Jiang Yinyan's action, but her frown had indeed disappeared. "Even if you hadn't gone to see Tingyuan, he would have come to you on the day of the jewelry appraisal event." Jiang Yinyan stated the truth in a single sentence. In other words, Si Tingyuan only attended the event because he knew you would be there. Yes, that was exactly what Yunyan had just realized. She murmured, "Si Tingyuan has taken the top position. To consolidate support, he has to show sincerity and resolve, and he has to do it quickly, or the shareholders could make trouble at any moment. The quickest and most effective way to dispel the shareholders' concerns is to restart the Si family's stagnant jewelry production chain. All he needs is to ensure the stability of their previous partner team. Jiang Yanyan nodded slightly. Correct. Yunyan sighed heavily. It seemed she had been too hasty. Jiang Yanyan saw through her thoughts, and, after a long moment, said abruptly, "Back then, Yui Yuan made a wrong move." Yunyan looked up at him. Now, whenever he mentioned her father, she would feel a jolt. What had happened between the two of them was unknown to the outside world. She had already lost the best opportunity to question him, and even if she asked now, it would likely be useless. Jiang Yanyan didn't keep her in suspense and continued. He knew you were interested in business but didn't cultivate you in this area or give you opportunities to practice. As a result, although you have a discerning eye, you lack practical experience. The same problem applies to Yuan Zhou. It's true he has a mind for business, but based on his past project experience, if he wants to take the helm of the entire Yu family ship again, his ability is far from sufficient. That's why we need to make adjustments, Yunyan said softly. How could she not be aware of this? Her father had fought in the business world his entire life, and even he had ended up with a desolate conclusion. How could Yuan Zhou, in his 20s, fare any better? Leaving aside his business acumen, his age alone was enough to make it difficult for people to trust him. She was also aware of her own problems. This time, for instance, she had been too rash. She had originally thought to gain the upper hand by striking first, but unexpectedly, she had been part of someone else's calculations all along. But it's not a big deal. Cooperation is nothing more than a binding of interests, Jiang Yanyan said lightly. Si Tingyuan is well aware of this, which is why he was so proactive in seeking you out the second time. As you said, the Si family can't afford to wait. Yunyan slowly sorted through her thoughts and nodded. Yes. So Si Tingyuan took the initiative to meet with me. Firstly, he genuinely wanted to confirm the stability of the Yu family's team. And secondly, she looked up at Jiang Yanyan, her beautiful dark brows furrowed in thought. He wanted to lure the snake out of its hole. The snake was Si Tinji. Si Tinji would come looking for her, or Yuan Zhou, just as she and Yuan Zhou had analyzed before. But Si Tinji was also a cunning person. He wouldn't approach them without a pretext or strike unprepared. She had only spoken with Si Tingyuan once. He could guess they had an intention to cooperate, but he would definitely wait and see what their next move would be, or at least wait for some news about the Si and Yu families. If Si Tingyuan didn't move, Si Tinji wouldn't move either. That's why she had just realized the fundamental reason Si Tingyuan had approached her proactively was that the Si family couldn't afford to wait. He couldn't waste time in a tug-of-war with Si Tinji. He could only take the offensive. No destruction, no construction. That was probably Si Tingyuan's true thinking right now. Jiang Yanyan leaned back, looking a bit weary, but didn't ask her to leave. That's why I said earlier, Si Tinji is good at playing dirty tricks. That's what you need to pay attention to. Yunyan understood at once. She also realized that Jiang Yanyan had told her the reason for everything from the very beginning. You're cooperating with Jiang Cheng's team, right? When your father was alive, Jiang Cheng's team was united. But now, with the Yu family in decline, even if you've signed a renewal contract, things have changed. It won't be easy for you to completely secure their loyalty. Besides, I've heard that Jiang Cheng and some people in his team have private disagreements. Even if Jiang Cheng himself is loyal, there's no guarantee others in the team are. Jiang Yanyan analyzed calmly. There's no one on the team who doesn't want to make a name for themselves, who wants to live in Jiang Cheng's shadow for a lifetime. And the Yu family can't rely solely on past favors to keep the team stable. That favor was extended to Jiang Cheng, not to every single person on the team. Yunyan, you must remember, above all interests, the human heart is the filthiest. Yunyan bit her lip until it turned pale before releasing it. She said, Jiang Cheng signed a contract in the name of the entire team. Any problem caused by a team member will be considered a breach of contract, and the penalty is substantial. The jewelry industry involves huge sums of money, so the compensation for breach of contract is also a considerable amount. Therefore, such teams wouldn't dare to break their contracts lightly. Hearing this, Jiang Yanyan laughed and retorted, why wouldn't they dare? A problem that can be solved with money is not a problem. His words were a rude awakening. But Si Tingyuan once tried to poach Jiang Cheng's team with a high salary. As Yunyan said this, she suddenly reacted. Si Tinji's real intention isn't to cultivate a team, but to destroy one. Jiang Yanyan said, it's good that you understand. Si Tingyuan tried poaching them through legitimate channels and clearly didn't get what he wanted. So Si Tinji is bound to find another way, such as trying every means to force the team to break the contract. With so many people on the team, there's bound to be someone who wants to become famous or, at the very least, has a weakness. Yunyan pressed her lips together tightly. Although she was unwilling to believe it, what Jiang Yanyan said was not without reason. Jiang Yanyan's posture was lazy as he looked at Yunyan with a half-smile. So, are you still so sure of yourself now? Yunyan was silent for a long time. An open attack is easy to dodge, but a hidden arrow is hard to defend against. Si Tinji will have to show his face eventually, right? He will. Jiang Yunyan gave her a clear answer. The initiative is in Si Tingyuan's hands now. In the next few days, Si Tinji's focus will be on your Yu family team and you. And Si Tingyuan, most likely, wants to be the fisherman. Once Si Tinji makes a move, he will inevitably wait to see how the Yu family handles it. Only if the Yu family has the ability to overcome the crisis will Si Tingyuan be completely convinced of your team's stability. Yunyan felt a tightness in her chest. Aren't there any other possibilities? There are. He could wait until the Si and Yu family sign a contract and then cause trouble, but that's highly unlikely because it would damage the Si family's interests. Jiang Yunyan said lightly. Unless it's a matter of life and death, no one in a business struggle would kill 1,000 enemies at the cost of 800 of their own. Yunyan understood this logic too. Jiang Yunyan said, so from now on, you and Yuan Zhou must be extremely careful and pay attention to every single person on Jiang Cheng's team. He added, it will be very mentally taxing. Yunyan pondered. She knew a few members of Jiang Cheng's team, and Yuan Zhou was very familiar with the rest. The important thing now was to win their hearts. If Si Tinji contacts you, you might as well string him along for a bit, Jiang Yunyan said suddenly. Don't give him a direct response. Yunyan didn't understand. Jiang Yunyan watched her with composure, saying word by word, what one can't have is always the best. This is a common failing of most people, especially men. Si Tinji is no exception. Yunyan thought for a moment, then suddenly smiled. What one can't have is always the best. That's not wrong. On this point, you are a perfect example, Jiang Yunyan said, half joking and half serious. For as many men as there are who want you, there are just as many ugly rumors. Seeing him turn the topic to her, Yunyan pursed her lips and said, why does young Master Yin think they're rumors now? Whether they are or not, I don't like hearing them, Jiang Yunyan said, his expression remaining indifferent. Hearing this, Yunyan felt a pang of bitterness. What did he mean, whether they are or not? She retorted, don't you know whether they are or not? The words slipped out before she realized what she'd said, and her face turned awkward and uncomfortable. Jiang Yunyan, however, smiled, staring at her. That's right. Only I would know. Stop talking. Yunyan didn't want to discuss this and pulled the conversation back to the main topic. Why do you want me to string Si Tinji along? Jiang Yunyan tried to sit up straighter, but his movements were clearly restricted. Leaning back, he glanced at the fruit basket. Since you brought it for me, I'll have some. Yunyan glanced at the fruit platter on the rolling table. It was an impressive assortment of cut fruit with an auspicious pattern carved from a melon in the center. The carving was quite skillful. Don't think you could be lazy, Jiang Yunyan said slowly. I'll start with some grapes. I see some in the basket. There are some on the table too, and they're a better, sweeter variety than the ones I bought, Yunyan reminded him. Naturally grown grapes are best when they're both sweet and tart. Jiang Yunyan clearly didn't accept her well-intentioned advice, adding, besides, Yunyan, wasn't I just giving you strategic advice? My time is expensive. You can't afford my consulting fee. The least you can do is wash a bunch of grapes with some sincerity, right? Yunyan didn't refuse. She genuinely hadn't expected Jiang Yunyan to say so much to her today. After a thought, she asked, how about an apple instead? They're juicy and good for the throat. Unexpectedly, Jiang Yunyan's face turned cold, his gaze darkening. What was wrong? Grapes, Jiang Yunyan said, his voice now deep and clearly displeased. Fine. She wouldn't pull teeth from Tiger's mouth. After all, this Tiger had been quite gentle a minute ago and had helped her a lot. The hospital room was a suite with a small, simple kitchen, convenient for washing fruit and the like. As soon as Yunyan put the grapes in the water, she suddenly remembered something. Jiang Yunyan didn't really like apples. Ever since she had known him, he hadn't liked apples. No wonder he had looked so sour just now. Yunyan figured it was probably because he was injured. Otherwise, who knows what kind of tantrum he might have thrown. But on second thought, that wasn't right. If she could remember that he didn't eat apples, had he forgotten that she particularly hated washing grapes? Of all fruits, the ones that gave Yunyan the biggest headache were grapes and strawberries. It was fine when she was studying in the country, as the nanny handled such tedious tasks. But when she went abroad for university, to show her independence, she flatly refused her father's offer to send a nanny with her. In reality, she just wanted to enjoy a life of freedom. The price was having to do everything herself. She felt she was quite strong in other areas, but not when it came to washing grapes and strawberries. She actually loved eating both fruits. Later, unable to resist her cravings, she bought some, only to end up washing them until she cried. She had been washing grapes that time. It felt like no matter what she used or how she washed them, they never seemed clean. And she didn't dare use too much force, as the skin would break. It was a form of psychological torture. In the end, she spent an entire afternoon dealing with those grapes, wiping every single washed grape with a clean paper towel, polishing the skin of each one until she could almost see her reflection in it. The water ran. Yun plucked the grapes off the stem and put them in the water, but then she remembered that you weren't supposed to pluck them first, or impurities from the water could get inside. So annoying. But on second thought, it didn't matter. First, the water here was filtered and safe to drink directly. Second, she wasn't the one eating them. Even so, it still took her a good 10 minutes to wash the large bunch of grapes. What little obsessive habits she had were all channeled into the task of washing grapes. When she returned to the main room with the grapes, planning to use her grape-washing efforts to pry some more business experience out of Jiang Yinyan, she found that he had fallen asleep. He was leaning against the headboard with his eyes closed, his breathing even. Yinyan thought he was just resting his eyes. When she walked over and set down the grapes, and he still didn't open them, she reached out and tapped him lightly. Young Master Yin? Jiang Yinyan was surprisingly sound asleep. Young Master Yan's sleep has always been poor. Old Lu gently pushed out the mobile dining table, closed the inner room door, and whispered to Yunyan. He often suffers from insomnia, and even if he falls asleep, he wakes up at the slightest sound. Yunyan pondered old Lu's words. Insomnia wakes up at the slightest sound, then subconsciously turned to look at the inner room. She didn't feel like he had a sleep disorder. She hadn't woken him up just now. Old Lu noticed her doubt and quickly explained. Young Master Yin hasn't had a good night's sleep since he woke up. It might also be because he's too tired, which is why he fell asleep in the middle of the day. Or perhaps, he hesitated for a moment, looking at Yunyan. Yunyan found his gaze strange, and old Lu, this straightforward man, actually stammering, was truly puzzling. Or what? Old Lu said, or it's because Miss Yu is here. This made Yunyan laugh. I didn't know I was a hypnotist. Are you saying I'm boring? Old Lu repeatedly denied it. No. Miss Yu, being able to sleep in front of you shows that young Master Yin has no guard against you. Yunyan was surprised. I just stabbed you, young master. Aren't you afraid I'll give him another stab? There's a fruit knife in the room. Even if it wasn't aimed at his life, there was still the possibility of making him bleed more. Old Lu softly said, my fear doesn't matter. It's enough that young Master Yin isn't afraid. Otherwise, he wouldn't have fallen asleep so soundly in front of you. Yunyan fell silent. She carefully recalled their time together before, but because they were always special circumstances, she wasn't sure if he had actually fallen asleep. Each time, she was the one who got too tired and fell asleep first. You said he hasn't slept much since he woke up. What? This ward was very private and quiet, perfect for recuperation. Old Lu informed her. It was the old madam who brought Miss M.O. La to the ward. With Miss M.O. La present, young Master Yin couldn't sleep and didn't want to sleep. Yunyan had heard old Lu mention this before, and hearing him say it again, she was momentarily stunned. M.O. La was there, and Jiang Yinyan didn't want to sleep? Old Lu saw her strange expression and immediately reacted, explaining blindly. No, Miss Yu, please don't misunderstand. Young Master Yin and Miss M.O. La have nothing going on, and I didn't mean it that way. He paused, choosing his words. What I mean is that Miss M.O. La has been running to the ward a lot these past 2 days. Young Master Yin won't sleep if someone is sitting beside him. Even if Miss M.O. La urges him to rest, he'll only close his eyes and pretend to be resting. In reality, he just doesn't want to talk to Miss M.O. La. Yunyan simply said, oh. Seeing her reaction, old Lu hesitated. Miss Yu, you don't believe me, do you? Yunyan was amused by the question. Does my belief matter that much? Miss M.O. La is young Master Yan's fiancée. He can't stay awake forever, can he? Old Lu fell silent, his mouth opening and closing, unable to say anything for a long time. Yunyan asked old Lu, has the wedding date been set? Young Master Yin and Miss M.O. La's wedding date. Old Lu shook his head. I'm not very clear about that. Yunyan said oh again. Regardless of when the engagement was set, it would be set eventually. She needed to bring this up with Jiang Yinyan. She couldn't keep getting entangled with him if he was already engaged. Thinking of this, Yunyan wondered if she was being self-important. If in Jiang Yinyan's heart she was just an insignificant bed partner, why would he give her an explanation? He would probably laugh at her for overestimating herself. Wasn't his goal to trample her dignity into the mud? As she was leaving, old Lu stammered, Miss Yu, actually I think, young Master Yin doesn't want to get engaged. Yunyan was startled, then suddenly smiled. And then, I can't help him escape the marriage. Si Tinji indeed couldn't sit still, and quickly called Yunyan. When Yunyan saw the unfamiliar number on her phone screen, she had a faint premonition. After answering, it was indeed Si Tinji. Before this, Yunyan had never had any dealings with Si Tinji, not even met him. When the call first connected, Yunyan was truly captivated by the voice on the other end of the line. Si Tinji's voice wasn't as deep as Si Tingyuan's. His vocal cords were younger, very energetic, and at first listen wouldn't make one feel alarmed. His way of speaking wasn't annoying. He was polite and told her that the Yu family had always been a very important partner of the C family. Now that the Yu family was in trouble, he wondered if Miss Yu needed the C family's help, and if so, she could always ask. He first extended an olive branch, which made him seem easier to get along with than Si Tingyuan. Yunyan repeatedly thanked him on the phone, saying that the Yu family's current situation was equivalent to starting over, and the Si family's unwavering support made her, representing the Yu family, deeply grateful. She added that currently, the Yu family had many miscellaneous matters, and for the time being, she didn't want to trouble young Master Si. In the future, if there were any matters that required young Master Si's help, she hoped he wouldn't find it burdensome. Si Tinji laughed heartily on the other end of the phone, with Miss Yu's golden word, which young Master would dare refuse. If this sentence were said by anyone else, it would undoubtedly sound greasy and somewhat like harassment, but coming from Si Tinji, it sounded quite sincere. She suddenly remembered Jiang Ninian's description of Si Tinji, a smiling tiger, good at social interaction. She almost got carried away by his enthusiasm. Yunyan continued to express her gratitude, intentionally not letting the conversation develop further. It was Si Tinji who took the initiative to invite her, saying that he happened to be passing through Beishur and hoped Miss Yu would do him the honor of allowing him to treat her to a meal. Yunyan gracefully declined Si Tinji's invitation. Si Tinji didn't insist, just laughed and said that today's call seemed abrupt and he would sincerely invite her again another day. After hanging up, Yunyan sighed, grateful that Jiang Yinyan had given her a heads up. Otherwise, just listening to Si Tinji's captivating voice, she might have felt unable to refuse. After all, she had initially decided that she would go whenever Si Tinji invited her. By keeping Si Tinji on a string, Yunyan could only think of forcing the other party to make the first move, and she would respond with an action. As for whether there was a deeper mystery, based on her current experience, she couldn't figure it out yet. It was strange. Even though she hated Jiang Ninian so much, she subconsciously chose to trust his moves. Yuan Zhou had too much to drink. Xiaomin went to pick him up. He was quite quiet on the way back, but as they got closer, he couldn't hold it in anymore. Seeing the situation wasn't good, Xiaomin quickly pulled over, put on the hazard lights, and stopped the car. Yuan Zhou rushed out and threw up beside a trash can. Xiaomin sighed heavily and brought pure water and tissues from the trunk. After Yuan Zhou finished throwing up, she handed him the tissues and water. Seeing him still looking dizzy, she simply did it for him. She made him rinse his mouth and wiped his face. He leaned against a tree trunk for a while before he recovered. Xiaomin helped him back into the car and buckled his seatbelt. He still smelled strongly of alcohol. He had unbuttoned 2 buttons of his shirt earlier, revealing his firm chest. His head rested against the car's seat, from his jawline to his prominent Adam's apple. The lines were smooth and sexy. Xiaomin's gaze moved away from him, but the man's scent was everywhere. The smell of leather and woody notes, infused with alcohol, was both clean and masculine. Xiaomin's breathing became heavier. She took a deep breath, discarded the distracting thoughts in her mind, and kept telling herself, he is Yuan Zhou, her best friend's younger brother, and her brother too. She met Yuan Zhou around the same time she met Yunyan. Back then, when the two of them secretly went to eat at street stalls, Yuan Zhou would always follow Yunyan, telling her, if you eat these unhealthy things, I'll tell Mom when we get home. At that time, Yuan Zhou was still short, a very small child, 1 grade below them. According to Yunyan, he always sat in the front row of his class. But don't let his small size fool you. His demeanor was extraordinary. Even at a few years old, he had the air of a rich young master. Xiaomin even told Yunyan back then, when the two of you stand together, you look like a tomboy, and he's a true young gentleman. The young gentleman was graceful and well-behaved in every gesture, a favorite of teachers, and multi-talented. Despite his young age, he had many little girls around him, but he was only close to Yunyan. In class, he wasn't very fond of talking to people. After class, he would either go find Yunyan or read in the classroom. When he read, he always sat up straight, calm, and composed at such a young age. Only when it came to Yunyan secretly eating street food would he get emotional. Back then, Xiaomin found Yuan Zhou quite annoying. She always felt that, at his young age, he liked to put on airs and interfere with everything. He was just a little kid. Why was he acting so profound? Later, he transferred with Yunyan, and by the time they met again, they were both adults. If Yunyan hadn't introduced them, Xiaomin wouldn't have recognized the tall and handsome young man in front of her as the little tag-along Yuan Zhou. The moment her gaze met his smiling eyes, she heard her heart pounding against her chest. Yuan Zhou was cheerful then, praising her for changing so much as a woman. She was quite happy until he said before leaving, "Sister Min, is it convenient to save your number?" The phrase, "Sister Min," firmly suppressed the flame in her heart. But suppressing it didn't mean extinguishing it. Xiaomin was well aware of her feelings for Yuan Zhou. This unrequited love was like a glass of mulled wine, a sip of which made her slightly tipsy and bitter. So, she almost fell in love with mulled wine. Every winter, she would make a glass of mulled wine, drinking alone while looking at the long neon lights and the deep night outside the window. Because of that brief, stunning encounter, she could no longer harbor anyone else in her heart. It wasn't that there weren't men more outstanding than Yuan Zhou. Her position and resources allowed her to meet many high-quality men. But it was also because she was in this industry that she witnessed the dirtiness beneath elegant exteriors, which made her truly realize how rare and precious Yuan Zhou was. Many men pursued her, and she would compare every man to Yuan Zhou. In her heart, no one was better than Yuan Zhou. Tonight, she had no engagements, but received a call from Yuan Zhou. Yuan Zhou's voice on the phone was very drunk, but she could tell he was still trying to hold on. He said, "Sister Min, is it convenient to pick me up?" Let alone Xiao Min having nothing to do. Even if she had an engagement, she believed she would rush over without hesitation. Yuan Zhou had come out of social engagement. When Xiao Min found him, his car had its hazard lights on by the roadside, and he was sitting by the road, head down, shirt sleeves rolled up, revealing his strong forearms. He was somewhat allergic to alcohol. His face and even his body would turn red every time he drank. So his arms beneath the rolled-up sleeves were also red. Seeing her, he looked up and smiled at her, then called out, "Sister Min." Okay, he wasn't completely unconscious. He could recognize her. Xiao Min asked him, "Why is the car parked here? Did you drive yourself? Are you crazy?" Yuan Zhou shook his head, drunkenly saying that the designated driver he called talked too much, and he was so annoyed that he sent the person away halfway through the drive. Also, that person had body odor. "I was afraid it would make your car smell." Xiao Min couldn't help but laugh, thinking he was still so particular at a time like this. Why didn't he mention that he reeked of alcohol? Yuan Zhou had previously come to her house to confront her, and her car hadn't been returned yet. Xiao Min thought it would be better to drive his car. Seeing a parking lot nearby, she first helped Yuan Zhou back in his car and told him, "Wait for me for a bit. Don't wander off, okay?" He reached out and grabbed her arm, and she felt a burning sensation on her wrist. Yuan Zhou's tall body leaned over and asked her where she was going. His posture was like a pet dog that had been abandoned by its owner. Xiao Min couldn't help but laugh, explaining that she was going to park her car first, then drive his car to take him home. Seeing his drunken state and knowing he probably wouldn't understand, she just told him the main point directly. "Just wait for me in the car obediently. Don't go anywhere, okay?" Yuan Zhou nodded. When Xiao Min returned, he was quite obedient, not wandering off or doing anything to worry her, sitting quietly in the passenger seat. Until this moment of delayed reaction. Xiao Min didn't drive immediately. She was afraid he would throw up again. He closed his eyes for a while, and when he opened them, his gaze was slightly clearer. He thanked Xiao Min, feeling somewhat guilty. "Did I delay you?" Xiao Min said no and asked him, "Why did you drink so much?" The year they reunited, Yuan Zhou wasn't much of a drinker. Sometimes he would accompany Yue to social events, but often he wouldn't be forced to drink. Gradually, he became more involved in business, and the number of times he drank increased. Although he was somewhat allergic to alcohol, his tolerance grew, and he rarely got drunk. But tonight, he was so drunk, which indicated a rather special situation. Yuan Zhou was still quite uncomfortable. He forced himself to drink a few more sips of water, frowning as he swallowed. He said, "Huang Jifa is a slippery eel. Wanting to carve a piece of meat from him is too difficult." Xiao Min was greatly surprised. She knew Huang Jifa, who owned the best-located factories. She had also heard that the Yu family wanted to finalize the factory deal, and she hadn't expected Yuan Zhou to meet him tonight. That person was more than just an eel. He was an old fox. Those with shallow experience in the business world were simply no match for him. "No progress?" Xiao Min asked him. Yuan Zhou's breathing was a bit heavy. He said, "It's not that there's no progress, but it's still a bit short of my goal. Take it slow. People like Huang Jifa prioritize profit, and he's quite a petty person. Even if you reach an agreement today, he might change his mind tomorrow." Xiao Min thought for a moment as she spoke. "Perhaps I can. Sister Min, don't worry about my affairs. The Yu family has too many messes. If you try to get involved in all of them, you'll work yourself to death." Xiao Min sighed. "I just wanted to help you think of a solution. I can still handle it for now. If it gets too difficult, I'll ask you for help. Don't let Yuan Zhou's young age fool you. Sometimes he's quite a chauvinist." Xiao Min didn't want to contradict him, so she nodded and said, "No matter what, if you and Yin ever need help, don't hide it from me. Even if I don't have much ability, I can at least be there for you." Yuan Zhou turned to look at her and softly said, "Okay." The car interior was dim, and neon lights from outside splashed in, casting a remarkably gentle glow on the man's thick brows and deep eyes, all enhanced by the alcohol. Xiao Min heard her heart pounding wildly, and her breathing became increasingly rapid. She felt her throat tighten and dry, and she gave an unnatural laugh. What is it? Yuanzhou still had a hint of drunkenness in his eyes. He smiled. It's nothing. I just feel so good having Yunyan and you always by my side, encouraging me. Hearing this, Xiaomin was filled with mixed emotions. She said, isn't that what friends are for? Anything more would be too formal. Yuanzhou gazed at her, and for some reason, his heart felt warm. Although many things were not going well at the moment, whenever he saw Yunyan and Xiaomin, he would always feel invigorated. A voice in his heart always told him that there were still many important people by his side, especially Xiaomin. Over the years, she was the one he was most grateful for. No matter what happened, as long as she was by his side, he felt secure. Perhaps it was the alcohol, but as Yuanzhou looked at her, he felt a flutter in his chest. He couldn't help but lean over and gently pulled her into his embrace. Xiaomin froze. Thank you, Yuanzhou said from the bottom of his heart. Xiaomin tried her best to control her surging emotions. The moment she was embraced, she felt as if she was the one who was drunk, her blood burning. Eventually, she calmed down and smiled. As I said, friends don't need to be so polite. Yuanzhou chuckled softly, not letting go of her immediately. I just think this feeling is really good. The feeling of being cared for. Xiaomin, I really want to do something for you too, truly. You're just feeling bad because you bother me to pick you up in the middle of the night. Your conscience is acting up, right? Xiaomin joked, but she couldn't help but gently hold him back, reluctant to let go. Yuanzhou's laughter, imbued with drunkenness, sounded very sexy. See? You misunderstood, didn't you? I genuinely want to do something for you. Xiaomin's chest tightened, her voice dry. You really don't have to. Yuanzhou had been dead drunk earlier, but after the recent commotion and drinking a good amount of water, the alcohol now had him in that hazy state where he wasn't completely sober, but not totally incoherent either, a stage where one's emotions are easily swayed. He slightly loosened his embrace, lowering his face and chuckling softly. You, and Yunyan, you still treat me like an overgrown child. I don't, Xiaomin retorted. But seeing him like this, she didn't want to explain anymore. Anything she said would be forgotten by the time he woke up tomorrow. Hey Zhou, let me ask you something, Xiaomin said softly. Yuanzhou looked up at her. At such close proximity, their breaths intertwined. He smelled her fragrance, and for a moment he felt a haze, an ineffable sensation stirring within him. Xiaomin tried her best to suppress her wildly pounding heart and asked, why didn't you call Ninian tonight? Yuanzhou waved his hand. Have her come pick me up? She'd worry. Xiaomin's heart sank. She forced a smile, her voice dry as she said, yes, she would worry. She definitely would worry. But she would worry too when Yuanzhou didn't know what she was thinking. He wasn't even very clear about what he was saying. He slumped back into the passenger seat and mumbled, even though she doesn't cry much, it wouldn't be good if she worried too much. Xiaomin hummed in response, a bitter feeling in her heart. Feeling better? I'll take you home. Yuanzhou nodded slightly, then suddenly said after a moment, I want to go to her place. Xiaomin started, Ninian. Yuanzhou hummed in affirmation. Didn't you not want her to worry? Xiaomin frowned. Yuanzhou lowered his head and finally spoke after a long pause. She actually called me when I was at the dinner table. I'm still afraid she'll worry, so it's better to tell her in person. What? What are you going to tell her? Xiaomin's breath hitched. Hearing her question, Yuanzhou looked puzzled. What? Of course about Mr. Huang. Xiaomin's anxious heart finally found a target again. After a moment's thought, she said, you should go home and rest first. Talk to Ninian after you've sobered up. Even if you go tonight, you won't be able to explain clearly. I can explain clearly. Yuanzhou was surprisingly insistent. Sister Min, trust me, I can explain clearly. Xiaomin had no choice. She sighed heavily. All right, I'll call Ninian first. She briefly informed Yunyan that she would be bringing Yuanzhou to her place soon. Yunyan was very smart. She asked Xiaomin if he had drunk too much with Mr. Huang. Xiaomin briefly described Yuanzhou's drunken state. Yunyan sighed upon hearing it. It's been so many years since I last saw him drunk. I think, from now on, this kind of situation will be normal. Those old hands in the business world are all experts at getting people to drink. Before, there were elders to cover for him, but now he's on his own, isn't he? Xiaomin was perceptive. Yunyan thought for a moment, asked about their route, and then said, it's easiest for him to go to your place. Coming to mine would be a detour, so don't bother coming over. Xiaomin didn't want to take him there either, but he insisted. So she sighed and said, he's more stubborn than a mule when he's had a drink. I wouldn't dare take him to my place. If his stubbornness kicks in and he insists on going to yours, I'd still have to deal with it. Might as well just drop him off at your place in one go. And so, Xiaomin drove Yuanzhou all the way back to Yunyan's place. Yuanzhou leaned back in the passenger seat with his eyes closed, seemingly asleep. Xiaomin was thinking of trying to wake him. If he was really asleep, she'd just hit the gas and leave. When he groggily opened his eyes, he squinted slightly, looking out the car window. Am I here? Xiaomin hummed in affirmation. Yu Wanzhou nodded, laboriously unbuckled his seatbelt, and tried to get out. The next second, Xiaomin grabbed his arm. He turned back, looking at her with hazy, drunken eyes. Are you sure going up like this won't disturb Yin Yin? Yu Wanzhou smiled slightly. She won't mind. Xiaomin had nothing to say and could only let him have his way. Just as he was about to get out, she asked him to wait, then she got out. Yu Wanzhou didn't know what she was doing. He laboriously turned his head to look, but saw nothing, then drunkenly leaned back. Soon, Xiaomin returned, holding a box. It was a black gift box, and inside was a custom-made shirt. Put this on, Xiaomin said. Drunk as Yu Wanzhou was, he wasn't completely oblivious. He looked at the shirt in her hand, astonished. Change, Xiaomin hummed. Adjusted the rearview mirror, see for yourself. Yu Wanzhou, with his fuzzy, throbbing head, looked up and saw a lipstick stain on the collar of his shirt. Although it had been somewhat blurred and diluted when he washed his face earlier, anyone with eyes could spot the mark instantly. He frowned, racking his brain, but unable to recall whose lipstick it was or when it got there. Xiaomin felt a pang of discomfort. She had seen that mark the whole way, and each time she did, her chest ached. She knew that social engagements often involved pretty women, and that Yu Wanzhou, after fully entering the business world, would inevitably encounter such situations, but she still felt very uncomfortable. Yu Wanzhou tried to rub it off, but it only smeared more. He seemed utterly frustrated, his brow tightly furrowed. Don't rub it anymore. Put on a fresh one, Xiaomin said, unbuttoning the shirt and handing it to him. Yu Wanzhou stared at the shirt, puzzled. Why do you have a man's shirt? Then he suddenly realized, startled, do you have a boyfriend? A surge of anger rose within Xiaomin. Just change it when I tell you to. Why so many questions? Yu Wanzhou flinched. Xiaomin had a strong-willed temperament, something both Yu Wanzhou and Yin Yin knew well, but she had never lost her temper with either of them. Yelling like this tonight was a first. But Yu Wanzhou's focus wasn't on her yelling. After he registered her words, he asked, Who is it? Who are you dating? On any other occasion, Xiaomin would have teased him, but he was so drunk now that anything she said would be futile. Suppressing her anger, she said, Do you think it's appropriate to go see Yin Yin wearing a shirt with a lipstick stain? Yu Wanzhou pondered for a long time before reaching out and taking the shirt. He didn't get out of the car, nor did he try to avoid Xiaomin. He just sat there, unbuttoned his shirt, and took it off. Xiaomin subtly turned her gaze back, looking at the deep night outside the window. In her ears was the rustling sound of Yu Wanzhou dressing, while what still lingered in her mind was the fleeting glimpse of his body, with its smooth muscles and strong bones. The air was filled with his masculine scent, sexy yet clean, alluring with a strong hint of hormones. Her head felt a little dizzy, her heart started pounding faster again, and her breathing became increasingly rapid. The shirt fit perfectly. Although Yu Wanzhou was drunk, he was still puzzled at heart, and asked Xiaomin if that man was roughly the same height and build as him. Xiaomin didn't want to explain, so she just hummed in response. Yu Wanzhou lowered his gaze, gave an "oh," and said nothing more. Xiaomin put the shirt he had taken off into the box, then looked at Yu Wanzhou in front of her. It was a black shirt, simple yet luxurious, and indeed, it fit him perfectly. The simpler something was, the harder it was to execute well. Actually, the shirt was custom-made for Yu Wanzhou. She had been driving his car these past 2 days, so she just happened to put the gift box in the trunk. She had originally intended for Yin Yin to give it to Yu Wanzhou, but unexpectedly, the opportunity arose so coincidentally today. No time like the present. It was the perfect chance to give it to him. After a long pause, Yu Wanzhou said quietly, Since I wore this shirt, I won't give it to him now. Later, I'll buy him a new one. Xiaomin didn't know if he was truly drunk or faking it. If he was truly drunk, his thoughts were still quite clear. If he was faking it, he believed the obvious nonsense she had just said. Just wear it. Don't worry about replacing the shirt. Yu Wanzhou thanked her. Can you go up by yourself? Xiaomin asked again. Yu Wanzhou nodded. He opened the car door and had just stepped one leg out when he turned back and said to her in a low voice, Keep the car. Don't go back to get yours. Xiaomin's chest tightened again. She urged him to go up quickly. After Yu Wanzhou staggered into the elevator area, Xiaomin sighed heavily, pulled out her phone, and sent a message to Yin Yin. He's in the elevator. After sending it, a deep sense of melancholy settled in her heart. Soon, Yin Yin sent a voice message. Asterisk, aren't you coming up with him? It's so late. Don't leave. Stay here with me. Asterisk. Xiaomin replied. No, it's fine. I have a bunch of work to do when I get home. She placed her phone on the passenger seat. Yes, work. Work makes one happy. Hospital. Mora arrived that evening. She brought 7 or 8 bodyguards with her. This time, she came alone. Without old Mrs. Jiang accompanying her, the security was watertight. 2 bodyguards even followed her into the ward. Jiang Yinyan frowned and barked, "Get out." Mora was embarrassed. It was old Lu who smoothed things over, saying, "Miss Mora, you won't be in danger here. If there really were danger, wouldn't young Master Yin be here? At the very least, I'm here to watch over things." Combining firmness with persuasion, he added, "If your bodyguards come into the ward, an outsider might think you're guarding against young Master Yin." Mora had actually just grown accustomed to it. Seeing the situation, she dismissed her bodyguards. In truth, Mora hadn't come for anything urgent. Just like the previous 2 times she accompanied old Mrs. Jiang would talk, and she would simply sit quietly beside her, occasionally chiming in with a word or two. She sat by Jiang Yinyan's bedside for a good half hour, while Jiang Yinyan continued reading his finance magazine, barely looking up at her. This was their usual state when Mora and Jiang Yinyan were alone together, mostly silence. Of course, this was mainly because Jiang Yinyan was not a talkative person. From the day she met him, she knew he wasn't fond of talking. Mora initiated the conversation, but she brought up Yinyan. "Hey, have you convinced Yinyan? Is the engagement still being called off?" Jiang Yinyan didn't even look up. "No." Mora had long been used to his attitude. After a moment's thought, she said, "It's a pity for Yinyan to marry Jiang Zhe. Jiang Zhe has quite a few scandals, doesn't he? And with that movie queen, I don't believe that woman will let it go easily." Jiang Yinyan merely hummed in response, showing little reaction. Mora wasn't annoyed. She continued, "Yinyan deserves someone better. Guess what? Does she have someone she likes in her heart? Aside from the financial interests, do you think she's insisting on calling off the engagement because she has someone she likes?" Jiang Yinyan's movement of turning the page paused slightly, but he quickly resumed as normal. He said no. Mora chuckled lightly. "Your answer is so decisive, it almost makes me think you know her very well." Jiang Yinyan had no reaction this time. Mora put down her phone, tilted her head, and asked Jiang Yinyan, "Do you know what Yinyan usually likes?" Jiang Yinyan's gaze finally lifted from the magazine. He frowned. "Are you very interested in her?" Of course. Although Mora didn't want to provoke him easily, she wasn't afraid of him either. After all, their 2 families were equally powerful, and Mora was never one to bow down to anyone. Jiang Yinyan's gaze was indifferent. Why? Because. Mora thought for a long time, then suddenly smiled. She looked at Jiang Yinyan, unafraid of his cool gaze, and said, "Because I find that little girl very interesting, and she's very beautiful." Emola, however, was unconcerned. She shrugged her shoulders and said to Jiang Yinyan, "Don't forget, before the Jiang and Yu families officially announce the broken engagement, she's still Jiang Zhe's fiancée. Your nephew's wife-to-be. There are some things you might want to interfere with, but can't." Jiang Yinyan's eyes turned completely cold. I said, "Stay away from her." The smile on Mola's lips gradually faded. When she spoke again, her tone was much colder. "Jiang Yinyan, what are you trying to do? I feel I should remind you, don't forget the agreement between us." "I haven't agreed to it yet," Jiang Yinyan said faintly. "Then I suggest you think it over quickly." Mola stood up, preparing to leave. "The Jiang family's current situation might be in your favor, but can you guarantee you'll always be invincible? Power and prosperity can sometimes be as fleeting as a passing cloud." Jiang Yinyan suddenly smiled, but his eyes were icy. "You think I care about that?" Mola froze. Mola. Jiang Yinyan was never one to be controlled. He looked up at her. "To me, the Mola family is merely the icing on the cake. I won't force it if it's not meant to be." "You." Mola's expression turned grim. "So," Jiang Yinyan said nonchalantly, "you'd best be obedient. You should know who you can and cannot provoke. Otherwise, I won't care about any family ties. You're more or less aware of what I did before returning to the Jiang family. I'm the only one who threatens others. No one dares to order me to do anything." Mola pressed her lips together tightly. After a long moment, she relaxed her mouth. "Fine, then you think it over carefully. I don't care what you've been through in the past. I only know that you are now young Master Yin of the Jiang family, the crown prince of the capital. That identity is enough. So for the sake of peace between our 2 families, you must act with prudence." Jiang Yinyan's expression was indifferent as he went back to reading his financial magazine. After Mola left, the night outside the window deepened. Lao Lu entered the hospital room and was about to draw the curtains when Jiang Yinyan stopped him. "Leave it," Jiang Yinyan said faintly, subconsciously glancing out the window. He could just see the moon in the sky. The bright light in the room made the moonlight seem dim and bleak. He inadvertently thought of Yunyan that night. Her dark hair spilling down, her cheeks deathly pale. He was the one who had been stabbed, yet her face was completely drained of color. He hadn't missed a look in Yunyan's eyes. There was terror and also hatred. At that moment, he believed she truly wanted to kill him. Just like the day he learned his best friend had been murdered, he had wanted to kill Yue Yuan just as much. Jiang Ninian retracted his gaze. He couldn't focus on the magazine anymore. He closed it and set it aside. Lao Lu hadn't left. He paced to the bedside and said softly, Miss Imola looked terrible when she left. Did you two argue? Lao Lu, you know me. I hate being threatened more than anything. Lao Lu sighed. Understood. After concealing the darkness in his eyes, Jiang Ninian looked weary. He leaned against the headboard and tilted his chin up slightly. Sit. Outside. Lao Lu always maintained his role as a bodyguard. Although everyone knew he was Jiang Ninian's confidant, the one who could get closest to him, he always followed the rules and never overstepped his bounds. In private, Lao Lu's relationship with Jiang Ninian was more like that of a close friend. Sometimes, Jiang Ninian would tell Lao Lu things he couldn't say to others. Lao Lu knew how to maintain the right distance. When Jiang Ninian spoke candidly, he would listen, and when Jiang Ninian didn't want to talk, he would never disturb him. Lao Lu sat in the chair Imola had just occupied, pulling a little closer. Do you want to get some rest? Jiang Ninian had woken up not long after Yunyan left. Judging by his state, he really had been asleep. In the blink of an eye, it was night again. Miss Imola had stayed for about an hour, and looking at Jiang Ninian's condition now, he probably wouldn't be able to sleep. As expected, Jiang Ninian shook his head and said in a low voice, There's a dull ache in my head. I just can't sleep. What happened during the day was a first for you, Lao Lu said. He was referring to how Jiang Ninian had fallen asleep while Yunyan was still in the room, so deeply that he didn't even know when she left. This was not Jiang Ninian's usual habit. Jiang Ninian was highly vigilant and didn't trust people easily. He was like a wolf in the forest, constantly alert and awake. For someone like him to let down his guard, let alone fall asleep, in front of another person was an extremely rare occurrence. Hearing Lao Lu's words, Jiang Ninian fell silent for a moment before saying, She's too weak to even trust a chicken. She wouldn't dare do anything to me. Lao Lu smiled. Your wound was inflicted by that very same weak young lady. A flicker of unease crossed Jiang Ninian's face. It's not fatal. Lao Lu smiled without saying a word. After a long pause, he spoke again. Miss Yu was terrified this time. And you, young Master Yin, certainly succeeded in showing her the depravity of human nature and in finding the slanderer for her. But I imagine Miss Yu also now hates you with a passion. I know. Jiang Ninian's voice was very low. So low it was oppressive. He added, Lao Lu, I know she's innocent. But whenever I think of Yue Yuan, I want to destroy everything he has. After a long while, Jiang Ninian murmured, I have trusted people before. I once trusted Yue Yuan so much. Lao Lu sat with him in silence. It had been a long time since he'd seen Jiang Ninian like this. Since returning to the Jiang family, he seemed even unhappier than before, quieter and colder. It was only after encountering Yunyan again that his emotions had shown a marked change, becoming almost moody. Lao Lu thought he understood Jiang Yunyan well, but on the matter of Yunyan, he didn't dare to make any guesses, unable to fathom Jiang Yunyan's thoughts. Like the time, he had Yunyan thrown into Fengyao. When Lao Lu heard about it, shocked was the only word to describe his feelings. What kind of place was that? Even Jiang Yunyan himself was disgusted whenever it was mentioned and would never set foot there. Jiang Yunyan fell silent again, this time for a long while. He just kept looking at the moon outside the window, his eyes looking as if they were coated in dust. Just when Lao Lu thought he wasn't going to say anything more, he spoke, his voice dry and raspy. Maybe it's because she's too clean. Lao Lu didn't understand for a moment. The young lady of the Yu family, born with a silver spoon in her mouth. It would have been better if she had an arrogant and domineering personality, but she doesn't. She's like the moon outside the window. It clearly relies on the sun for its light. Yet it can be content and shine freely, living so cleanly. Even with the Yu family's downfall, she remains untainted by the dust of the world. Jiang Ninian narrowed his eyes, his gaze on the moon deepening as his voice grew hoarser. Lao Lu, do you know, when she came to me, I thought that the day had finally come for the Yu family's young lady to fall into the mud. That a woman who was once so proud could be trampled on by anyone. But he was wrong. The nobility in Yunyan's eyes never disappeared. Not even when she stood before him with trembling lips and said, I'm begging you. He wanted to sully her, to completely destroy the nobility and confidence in her eyes, to make her utterly humbled and worthless. That's why he thought of Fengyao, of that place that could make a person fall into an endless hell. Yet even when trapped in Fengyao, she never fell into hell. She stubbornly clung to the edge of the abyss, refusing to fall. At that moment, the Yunyan in his eyes was like a thorny rose, covered in blood, so formidable that no one dared to approach. Jiang Yunyan's fist clenched and unclenched. He had ruined her purity, and then he wanted to destroy her completely. Even he didn't know what was wrong with him. Lao Lu pondered for a long time before saying softly, Miss Yu is no ordinary person. She's very smart. It may not seem like much now, but one day she will be able to compete with any man. Jiang Yinyan was silent. So, Yinyan was not a woman who could be easily trapped by a man. This was what Lao Lu truly thought, but even with Jiang Yinyan speaking so candidly tonight, he didn't dare say it out loud. He felt that Yunyan was Jiang Yinyan's obsession, a sensitive spot that would always stir his emotions with the slightest touch. After a long pause, Jiang Yinyan finally spoke, but he asked about Yuanzhou. What's Huang Jifa's attitude? Seeing that he was no longer talking about Yunyan, Lao Lu immediately got to the point. Huang Jifa is playing all sorts of games. He was an hour late to meet Yuanzhou, supposedly playing cards the whole time. Not only was he served fine wine, tea, and cigarettes, but after the dinner, he went straight to a clubhouse and called for 4 hostesses. The clubhouse manager said Huang Jifa gets pretty perverted. He got aroused in the private room and unbuckled his pants. Yuanzhou couldn't stand it and tried to intervene, but Huang Jifa was rude to him. In the end, he threatened to break the contract and forced Yuanzhou to drink 2 large bottles of foreign liquor. And Yuanzhou handled it? Jiang Yinyan asked. Lao Lu said, yes, he handled it. Jiang Yinyan sneered. That ruthless streak is quite like Yuan's. He's truly a product of a Yu family. Young Master Yin, I'm afraid Yuanzhou won't be able to handle Huang Jifa. Jiang Yinyan grunted in agreement. Huang Jifa is a slippery old fox. He always treats people according to their status. With the Yu family in decline, he won't cooperate sincerely. Yuanzhou must have realized that. Why is he still diving in headfirst? Lao Lu was puzzled. Realizing it is one thing, but success depends on human effort. There are no absolutes in business. Besides, the factory Huang Jifa owns is the Yu family's only choice. So, even knowing there's a tiger on the mountain, Yuanzhou has no choice but to go there, Jiang Yinyan said lightly. Lao Lu nodded lightly. After a moment, Jiang Yinyan suddenly remembered something. Didn't Huang Jifa send a message through someone a couple of days ago? Yes, he came to Beishur and I want to pay you a visit. He had someone deliver a message to the Jiang residence, Lao Lu said. Jiang Yinyan grunted. Who else from a Jiang family did he visit? He wanted to see the old madam, but she turned him away, citing ill health. He hasn't been seen meeting with any other members of the Jiang family since, Lao Lu reported truthfully. Jiang Yinyan sneered. He's quite clever. Isn't he? Lao Lu smiled as well. He understands the current situation in the Jiang family. Even if you won't see him, he doesn't dare approach anyone else. He draws the line quite clearly. Huang Jifa's mind is more intricate than a honeycomb. He thinks more than the average person and is surely a master of navigating social intricacies, Jiang Yinyan said sarcastically. You mean, find a time for him to come over in the next couple of days? Jiang Yinyan raised a hand to pinch the corner of his eye, looking genuinely tired. Since he made the effort to send a message, I can't completely refuse him. Lao Lu replied, all right. But he knew perfectly well that young Master Yin was seeing Huang Jifa simply because he wanted to, not out of any concern for saving face. Yunyan nearly coughed up blood from exhaustion after getting Yuanzhou onto the bed. It was true that drunk people were dead weight. And this was with Yuanzhou already mostly sobered up and able to move on his own. Yuanzhou climbed up from the bed, struggling to lean against the headboard. Yunyan sighed and went to help him. Can't you just stay still? With her help, Yuanzhou settled against the headboard and chuckled. I can't sleep. I want to talk with you. Too drunk to sleep? The talk with Huang Jifa didn't go well, did it? Yunyan guessed. Upon seeing Yunyan, it was as if all of Yuanzhou's armor instantly fell away, and his whole body relaxed. He could barely sit up straight, swaying slightly. Yunyan reached out to steady him, and he leaned against her. The smell of alcohol filled the air between their breaths. Yunyan took a careful sniff and said, Your shirt is new, but you smell of a woman's perfume. Yuanzhou mumbled, Sister Min brought me back, remember? Xiaomin only uses custom-made perfumes. She hardly ever wears commercial ones anymore. Yunyan used to have a wall of perfumes herself. She knew all about the different scents, brands, and ingredients. And the perfume on you is the kind favored by women in a certain profession, a seductive scent that men find irresistible. Yunyan nudged him with her shoulder. Isn't that right, young Master Yu? Did you change your shirt because you got something on it? Yuanzhou lifted his face and looked at her in the dim light of the room, smiling. Why are you so smart? Don't give me that playful grin, Yunyan said, deliberately frowning. Yuanzhou gazed at her with drunken eyes. If I said I was with a woman, would you believe me? Would you care? Yunyan met his gaze, reached out to stroke his head, and sighed softly. Honestly, I wouldn't believe it, because you've always disdained doing business that way. But if you really did, I would care. Because I'd be afraid you'd be unhappy for doing something you didn't want to do. Yuanzhou lowered his head and murmured, In business, Isn't this sort of thing unavoidable? When you have no power, you have no choice. Yunyan hummed in agreement, then said after a moment, Huang Jifa is an old fox. Dealing with him must be exhausting. I know all the little schemes he's plotting, Yuanzhou sneered. But if you walk by the river often enough, you're bound to get your shoes wet. It's not like I don't know a thing or two about him. I just wanted to try being civil first. He looked up at Yunyan and said softly, I always believe in being civilized and not resorting to dirty tricks. Yunyan couldn't help but laugh and gave him a gentle push. You're covered in the scent of women. Isn't that a dirty trick? Yunyan was stunned. For hostesses, Mr. Huang is quite something. Yuanzhou scoffed. Quite something? Before the first woman even had time to react, Mr. Huang was finished in a flash, sprawled on top of her like a dead pig, grunting away. Even in the dim light of the private room, Yuanzhou could see the look of disgust on her face. Well, it was too fast. Huang Jifa thought he was a lion, but he turned out to be nothing more than a buffoon. After he recovered, he must have realized how embarrassing it was and started tormenting the women in all sorts of ways. Yuanzhou tried his best to stay out of it in that kind of situation, but one of the hostesses clung to him and wouldn't let go. That was how he ended up with the lipstick stain and the smell of perfume. Seeing Yuanzhou's reaction, Yunyan could somewhat imagine Huang Jifa's embarrassing state at the time. Suppressing a laugh, she said softly, he's probably kept on a tight leash at home, so when he finally gets a chance to come out, he goes wild. She then asked Yuanzhou, judging by his current behavior, actually reaching a deal is still a long way off, isn't it? Although his head was groggy, Yuanzhou's mind was still clear. He took the glass of water from Yunyan, had a few sips, and said, he has his reservations. He doesn't want to cooperate, but he doesn't want to refuse outright either. He's keeping his options open. Yunyan hummed in agreement, then suddenly thought of something. Didn't Mrs. Huang visit the Yu family a while back? Yuanzhou didn't need to recall. It was clear he'd done his homework. He nodded. Yes. Back then, Mother hosted a mid-autumn festival banquet and invited several ladies over. Technically, Mrs. Huang's status didn't warrant an invitation, but due to our long-standing business relationship, Mother invited her. Mrs. Huang was quite grateful and brought a special gift when she came. Yunyan only had a vague impression, as she couldn't really distinguish which lady was from which family back then. She faintly recalled a Mrs. Huang gifting her mother a necklace. It wasn't particularly expensive, but its strength lay in its simple and unique style. However, another lady had mocked her on the spot, saying, the Yu family has its own jewelry business, you know? Mrs. Yu would never be seen wearing this. Mother had stopped the other lady, saying that while the necklace wasn't studded with gems, its design was quite remarkable, the work of a master. Gems were certainly precious, but a good design was even rarer. Yunyan had also thought at the time that the Yu family led the jewelry industry with its design concepts, so Mrs. Huang had been quite thoughtful with her gift. I remember Mrs. Huang later took quite an interest in a free-form jade bangle. Yuanzhou, however, was unaware of this. When was that? On the day of the banquet, Yunyan recalled.